You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Do you ever have a kiddo pop into your office last minute and you need an activity to do quickly? Or do you ever wish you had access to hundreds of school counseling resources at your fingertips? Well, my Impact School Counselor membership is for you. Inside Impact, you get access to hundreds of resources sorted by topic, tier, season, or monthly lesson plans. Simply log on, find what you need, download it, and use it with your students right away. You also get access to our community where you can meet like-minded school counselors to troubleshoot tough cases, get inspired, and collaborate with your colleagues. Not only that, we also know how important it is to stay on top of your professional development. That's why we offer live quarterly trainings on hot topics that you need most. Impact is designed to make your counseling life easier. I know you're super busy. That's why I've made it super simple to access everything you need in one place. This way you can spend your time and energy doing what you love the most, helping kiddos. If you're looking for a one-stop shop for all of your counseling needs so you don't have to worry about searching on different sites, paying for things here and there, you can find everything you need on demand in one place in Impact. Head over to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact to watch a sneak peek video behind the scenes of what all is included in the membership. Again, that's stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact to get started today. I can't wait to help you make an impact. Thanks for listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. So happy December. The holiday season is officially here, and I know some of y'all have already been decorating since Halloween. I mean, seriously, it feels like everyone goes from having that huge skeleton in their yard to their Christmas tree up in like one day. Not so much here in Costa Rica, but it is funny because Halloween is kind of like a U.S. holiday, or I actually don't even know the origins of Halloween. Perhaps it's like Europe or something, not sure. But, really wildly celebrated in the U.S. and in Costa Rica, not so much a thing, but we do have a lot of like expats who live here, like Americans, Canadians. So we actually did have quite a few Halloween celebrations. But I just, see all the big skeletons, the Home Depot thing or whatever that neighbors and people back home have. And then as far as Christmas trees, that's another story. Also really difficult to get here. A live one. You can get like some artificial ones. And then the live ones, I think they have full-size live ones at the Walmart, which is like 1 hour away from me. So I wasn't sure, but I did find, we have this little guy who sells like plants on the side of the road. And he sells stuff sometimes, but I actually got mine at our grocery store. It's like a mini Christmas tree. So I thought it looks like a Christmas tree, but it's more like a house plant. And it started growing mushrooms. So Costa Rica problems, who knows? But all that to say, I am excited for Christmas, even though here it is like 90 degrees. And I know not all of you celebrate Christmas. I always debate on doing these episodes, especially because many of you work in public schools, and there's a lot of debate on like the appropriateness of even having any kind of holiday celebration, because we want, to create an inclusive environment and to make all of our students feel, welcome and affirmed and safe and loved. That's our utmost importance. But if you guys have been following me for some time, you know that I also love to put a seasonal twist on things, and I think you can do winter themed things. So take what works for you and your school population, leave what doesn't work. But I'm just here to provide some fun activities and ideas. So yes, winter is here, and let's talk about how you can use a interactive calendar to kind of spice up your counseling sessions this month. Now, this is something I came up with a few years ago, and I just love this idea. It's based off of a advent calendar. So, when I was a kid, we had like the little advent calendars, and some of them have chocolate and prizes. They're actually quite elaborate now because I just ordered my own kids one from Etsy. But when I was a kid, ours was just like a paper one, or cardboard, I guess, and you would like open every day and it was just a different image, just like a countdown. My sister and I, loved the paper chain countdown, loved that little paper advent calendar. It was just like a fun way to get excited for Christmas. I know I purchased my kids one on Etsy, and it's like a nativity scene or something, like little felt things you move. But there were some elaborate ones. There was like ones where you get these little hangers and candy and toys and chocolates, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so all the things, right? But this was the inspiration for this counseling activity. So I'll link to one in the show notes that I've made. Obviously, you can use the one I've made, and that will be easiest, but you can totally do it yourself and do a DIY one as well, which is what I'm going to kind of walk you through in today's episode. So it's an interactive calendar. So essentially you're going to figure out what day you get out of school, because you're likely not going to school until Christmas Day. So, it's probably the week before, earlier that week or something. So find out which day you're going to school until. So let's say it's the 20th. And then you can make your calendar starting, December 1st, or let's see, I think this episode's going to air the 5th. Yeah, the 5th. So you can just go from the 5th until, let's say you're going to school until the 20th or the 22nd or something. So you put that many days on your calendar, and then you're just going to have, you can use an existing calendar or create your own, and then you're going to have like little flaps on top, and you're going to write the name of an activity underneath. So essentially what's going to happen is you would lift up a flap, and then you'd say, oh, it says coping strategies game. Lift up another flap, it says mindfulness guided meditation. Lift up another flap, it says self-control game or something like that, right? So they're all covered up. Now, there's a few ways you can do this. You can do it like a traditional advent calendar, where the students come in your office and they do the activity that is on that designated day. So for example, if you're doing the countdown, you have 15 days left of school and you're going to start this tomorrow. Tomorrow would be day number 1. And then anytime you have one of those frequent flyer drop-in kiddos who just swings by, you can be like, hey, let's work on this today. And they lift it up, and it's really fun. It's like a little scavenger hunt, and they're like, oh, this is what I get to do. And then inside you have like a variety of SEL activities. Now, obviously, this is kind of random, so it works well for those like unexpected drop-in students who you're just trying to build rapport with. But if you're working like really specifically with a student in individual counseling on something like anxiety or something, it may be kind of random to do like a social filter game. They might be like, what does this have to do with what I've been working on? So you can use it for drop-in frequent flyers, but you could also use this with your individual students as a supplemental thing. So like as an icebreaker, like, hey, before we get into our, deep work we've been working on, or finish that activity from last week, let's just kind of open today's thing and see what our activity is. That's kind of fun. You could also do that with groups or in a class lesson, right? You can have a student come up and open the flap and then work on it as a group. Class lesson would be a little more challenging, but small group would totally work. And it's just a fun way to supplement your existing lessons during the month of December. Now, the other way you could do it is you could have students pick a random one, like make it a game. They don't have to go in the daily order. They could just pick a random one, and that could be what you're going to work on with them that day. So, and this is yours that you're creating. So depending on how like extra you want to get, you could do it where, let's say you have like a group on conflict resolution or friendship. You could make it where all of your activities are related to conflict resolution or friendship. So it doesn't matter which one they choose. Kind of like a choose your own adventure thing, but it's still in the theme of what you're working on. The one that I have has a variety of activities, which I'm going to go through now. So like I said, I have this for sale. I'll link to it in the show notes. But I think it's a fun DIY activity. So if you're feeling a little creative, you could even use like wrapping paper for the flaps to make it really festive. I don't know. It's fun. So here we go. Let's go through some of the activities here. Now we have a snowman cool down. So that's an activity you can do where it's like, you can make a little game board, and then if they land on an angry snowman face, they have to talk about a time they felt angry. And if they land on a snowflake, they can talk about a cool down strategy that they use. So just another way to start those conversations. Another one is matching game. So you can use, snowman faces, but then draw different emotions on them and then have them match to the different emotions. Another one, I love this, it's a coping strategies gingerbread house. So what you do is the kids are going to make a gingerbread house. Now, if you want to get really creative and memorable, you could do a real gingerbread house. This would be super fun with a group. Or you could do a paper version. But if you're doing the real gingerbread house or the paper version, what you do is the pieces of candy would be different coping skills. So for example, a candy cane would be like think happy thoughts. A little window would be talk to a friend. A peppermint would be take deep breaths. A gumdrop could be write in a journal, something like that. And they're going to pick the coping strategies they want to use, and that's what their house looks like. So essentially, each student will have a different looking house depending on their preferred coping skills. And then you can talk about those and they can kind of present their houses and share. So I think that would be super fun to do real gingerbread houses, like in a small group. So if you're doing like an anger management small group, a self-regulation small group, any group where you're working on coping strategies a lot, you could dedicate a session this month to building gingerbread houses. Of course, if you want to avoid candy, you could do the paper version, or you could make like a cardboard house. It doesn't have to be real candy. But then the kids can make the craft, and then they can say, oh, I have, a candy cane and a peppermint on mine because these are my preferred coping skills. And someone else would say, oh, I have a gumdrop, I don't know, and a Twizzler on mine because these are my preferred coping skills. So I love this activity. I think it's a really fun way to see that different kids prefer different coping skills. Another one, with self-control, you can, just do some more coping skills. I have a maze that I like the kids to do. This is a fun one. I statements. So I was mentioning earlier, for like a friendship or conflict resolution group, you can build a snowman with I statements. So I love to use this building visual. I've done it before with like an ice cream cone in the summer. But the snowman is going to have the, different parts of the I statement. So there's 3 different parts. Part 1, I feel blank when you blank. Part 2, because blank. And part 3, next time please blank. So for example, I feel angry when you cut me in line because I've been waiting patiently. Next time please wait your turn. So together, you and the student or the group of kids can pick the different snowballs and form different I statements. So flashback to the calendar, you're probably like, oh, these activities sound fun. What does this have to do with the calendar? So remember, they would come in your office and you say, okay, it's day 3, and you're counting down to winter break, like we only have 10 days left or whatever. And then they look under the flap and the flap says I statement snowman. So then you're like, okay, today we're going to build an I statement snowman. Or again, you can have the kids choose randomly and say, okay, this is my fun little box of presents. Randomly lift one of the flaps to see which present you get today. And they lift it and it says I statement snowman. And then that's the activity they do. Or like the third version I suggested is you could have, if you're doing this specifically for a conflict resolution or friendship group, everything under the flaps would be that kind of activity. And they might randomly pick the snowman. So I hope this is making sense. Sometimes I kind of ramble and I myself am looking at the visual, but I'm just jazzed on this idea, and I hope you guys are too. So another one, you can just have a dice game. I love a good discussion die, but you can just make it winter themed, put some snowflakes on it or something. Deep breathing exercises, so finger tracing. Sometimes people do star breathing or box breathing. You could use snowflake breathing or peppermint breathing, and you're tracing in and out deep breaths, inhales and exhales. Candy cane compliments. Students practice kindness by writing kind statements or compliments on different stripes of paper candy canes. Gratitude hot chocolate. This is fun. Again, you could do the real version if you're into food and treats, or you could do the paper version. But the kids are, you can talk about how your heart feels warm with gratitude, and then on each marshmallow they're writing, these are paper marshmallows, they're writing something they're grateful for. And you could do a real craft with puff balls or real marshmallows and then eat them. Growth mindset gingerbread man. So just, showing how one of your gingerbread men could have a brain on it. Again, you could do paper version, craft version, or real version. And then you're, sorting statements between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Self-esteem snowflakes. This is a good one to use if you're talking about how unique you are, how every snowflake's different, and qualities that make them unique and different. Snowball stress. This is a fun activity, a good visual as well if you're using Play-Doh or something to make a snowball bigger and bigger. And it's saying how stress can pile up, and then how coping strategies can help melt the stress away. So, using those visuals and analogies really helps with the younger kiddos. And then you can always do a coloring sheet, get a winter themed coloring sheet, color by number and make the numbers match the zones of regulation colors. That's a good one for self-regulation. I love to do a social story, so you can have like a winter or holiday themed social story related to social skills, like maybe a student's anxious to go to a holiday party or something, or grieving a lost loved one and this is the first holiday. You can, modify the social story to fit your students' needs, but make it winter themed. And snowman empathy, again, using like snowman faces to show different emotions, and then, saying, why do we think they're feeling this way? Have you ever felt this way? What can you do when you feel this way? And another one would be like a sweet treats, so kind statements, or how to change not kind statements to kind statements, but then using visuals of like holiday treats, cupcakes, whatever, gingerbread man. Another hot cocoa activity you could do is a guided meditation, and start by making them like, do you smell the cocoa? Can you imagine what it tastes like? Do your hands feel warm holding the mug? Just like pretend cocoa, to get them kind of in that imagery and mindfulness space, and then take them on a guided meditation where they're practicing their breath. And then a social filter. I always love to do a social filter. So this one, again, you can use snowflakes, or like an easy, holiday neutral, like a winter one to do. So just have different snowflakes with different statements on them, and which ones need to stay in your brain and which ones are okay to say for practicing that social filter. And then you could do bullying prevention scenarios. So this would be coming up with if you have students who are struggling with bullying, you can have a bullying prevention scenario that's holiday related, like someone's wearing one of those Christmas sweaters and someone else makes fun of them, or something like that. And lastly, just some more social skills. You can just have some social skills discussion cards, but make them really cute and holiday themed, like put a gingerbread house on them or something. So some of these are a lot more holiday or winter themed than others. Some are just kind of like a normal activity with a visual. But again, it's just fun. The kids are like, oh man, the counselor really made this special, put a little effort in. It's also a great way to take, a deeper dive at those frequent flyer students. So I'm talking about the kids who are just swinging it all the time, like, hey, Miss Rachel, what's up? And you're always like, oh, I'm good, but hey, you really need to get back to class. And, instead, have that moment of little connection. Say, hey, actually, come in here. This is the day. We have 10 days of school left. Open this flap for me. Let's play this activity. Because all of these are a good supplement, right? I mean, everyone could use a bullying prevention lesson, a kindness lesson, a growth mindset lesson. So yeah, I think you're going to love this activity. I hope that gave you a lot of ideas. Maybe you just pick a few of those activities and decide to do them this year, or maybe you want to do them all and make your own calendar, or maybe you're like, I want to do them all, but I don't want to make my own calendar. Can I buy yours? And I'll link to mine in the show notes if you want to check it out. I also have a blog post going into a little more detail, and if you want to do your own, the blog post has like some visuals of what the calendar looks like, so you can get some ideas. But that gingerbread house, I would love to see a real version of that one. I might try to do that with my own kids. Okay, I hope you guys found this helpful and fun, and I would love to see what you're working on this year. Feel free to tag me on Instagram at Bright Futures Counseling, and I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.